Another short segment here. Synergetics and the unified field. Appreciate you guys' time as always. Hey, my system is really easy to understand, you guys. You just have to wrap your mind around it. Children will be able to understand it probably easier than adults because we've already been stuck in our ways of understanding things. Science doesn't teach this. These are basic number patterns that I'm teaching. Basic number patterns which occur when any universe begins to expand omnidirectionally. And the 6 vectors, the 6 edge lengths of that tetrahedron begin to expand omnidirectionally. And then begins to fractionate itself, as I've shown in my other videos. This is what happens at the very beginning of the universe. It sets up this metric. Science doesn't use a 6-axis metric. I'm using the 6-axis metric, which is created within the isotropic vector matrix and the vector equilibrium as a model. In Hartree units, 137 is the speed of light. 1/137th the speed of light is the fine structure constant. I've explained that a little bit more in some other videos. I'll explain that more later on also. We're going to get really deep into that. Not this time, but we are. So, theoretically then, particles can't go the speed of light. As the universe expands, approaching the speed of light, it begins to fractionate itself. And when 1/137th fractionates itself from 137 and folds back into itself, it creates numbers which identify the proton. Okay? I'm just teaching. These are some numbers. These are exact numbers. You take these polyhedrons and you expand them, closest packed unit radius spheres, and their total number of kissing points or interconnections, also called vectors, which is where the energy, mass, and force will exchange itself. You have 136 frequency tetrahedron once you've fractionated 137 as the expansion process continues. And this tetrahedron here has exactly 9,384 times 137 times 2 total vectors. Those are the total number of kissing points between those spheres. In another video I showed the vector formulas, which science doesn't have or use right now. First time on the planet that we're understanding vector formulas in this manner. Please pay attention, friends. Inside of this tetrahedron, when you fractionate it, you have a 68 frequency octahedron. Its total number of vectors are 9,384 times 137. When you fractionate the octahedron inside this tetrahedron, you get the vector equilibrium of 34 frequencies, which is also inside that tetrahedron. It's fairly marvelous, you folks, if you're just looking at this right now. The vector equilibrium's vectors break up into 9,384 times 6.625 times 2 plus 9,384,000 divided by 92 times 6.625. The proton's rest mass is 938.4 megaelectron volts, according to Frank Close in his book Particle Physics. He teaches particle physics at major universities. I don't know if he's alive or not. I haven't really investigated that. I apologize. I get most of my information from books. Planck's constant is 6.625 times 10 to the negative 34 joules. Maybe there's some argumentation about, no, it's 6.626. Well, I'm going to show you something here then. Another book has the original quantum theory and a book called Modern Physics, talking about Compton's effect and then the math. In order to obtain the correct value of the Planck constant is 6.625 times 10 to the negative 34 joules. Are we all following that, you guys? Okay, so I'm not trying to deviate from any of science's numbers. I also know that currently 938.27 is a registered amount through CODATA of the MEV of the proton's rest mass. The numbers are so close we have to pay attention. Okay, these are models. The fine structure constant is approximately 1/137th, and the total number of naturally regenerative chemical elements is 92. So, universe in its expansion process and its fractionation process, whenever it's fractionating 1/137th as whole rational units from its metric of tetrahedral expansion, creates these ratios of energy, magnitudes, and force, which are interrelating to each other. That's all I'm pointing out, you guys. I'm going to point out then in some other videos how the neutron's value ratios into this. I've explained in some other videos how when you continue to fractionate 1/137th off of this tetrahedron's measure, every time you can rationally, in other words, 2 times 137 minus 2 is 1/137th of the fractionation. 137 times 3 minus 3 fractionates 1/137th of that polyhedron. We continue doing that every 1/137th. What we get to in the long run is a very interesting number complex, wherein 137 times 68 plus 68 is equal to 137 times 69 minus 69. This is the first time these two metrics have met up. Well, they meet up at 9,384, which happens to be the inverse of the fine structure constant, minus 1 divided by 2. So basic math sets up a ratioing metric when you use universe's coordinate system, which is a 6-axis metric. I really appreciate you guys' time as always. Please try and let this soak in. The number patterns, once again at higher frequency levels, begin to fractionate in such ways rationally that we ratio in the neutron also. It's very cool. Now what's neat about this is that each of these then points, which I call the 0 points of the 3 scales I've developed, which numbers break down into vector totals which are identical, close enough identical, or have identities to the numbers which physicists are finding in the neutron, the proton, Planck's constant, etc. Inside the nucleus of the atom, we're finding these numbers. Every time this doubles, and every time the other 0 points of my pen scale and quanta scale double, they will continue to hold polyhedrons which will break up into measure ratios, which are whole rational units of quantized measurement. See, Synergetics ratios whole quanta units, and they're capable then of, Synergetics is capable of measuring whole quanta units within its polyhedrons and ratioing these to the nucleus of the atom. Sorry if I'm a little long-winded. I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you very much.